Today's story is Author, the True Story by Helen Lester. A long time ago, there lived a 3-year-old author, me. It was the best grocery list writer in the world, and I was a huge help to my mother. When I wrote a word, I knew exactly what it said. And the fun part was that I could turn each list upside down and the words stayed the same. I think I made hundreds of these useful lists for my mother, and she never once said, "No thank you, dear, I have enough." And then I went to school and learned to make what they call real letters. My writing was the prettiest in the class with straight lines and round lines. It was perfect. And it was perfectly backwards. I didn't just mix up the B's and the D's. That's easy to do because they look so much alike. But my letters started from the wrong side of the page, and they marched across, pretty as could be, and backwards. There's a name for somebody with this kind of problem. I was a mirror writer. My teachers had to hold up my work to a mirror to understand what I had written. Thanks to a lot of help, I was finally able to write a proper direction. But writing stories was so hard for me. I often couldn't come up with a single idea, and my stories got stuck in the middle. I couldn't think of the title, I had trouble making up changes my teacher asked for, and when I lost my pencils, I wondered why I was doing this, and I got very, very, very frustrated. So I spent a lot of time dreaming about what I wanted to be when I grew up. In the circus, maybe. Since no one from the circus came looking for me, I became a teacher. I learned that teachers do not live in schools, eating only crackers and milk and sleeping under their desks. I also learned that teaching was fun and that children have fantastic imaginations. So my favorite subject to teach was writing. One day, a friend asked, "You should write a children's book." I thought. I'd spent 10 years in 2nd grade, so I know a child from a chicken. Maybe I should. I went right home and I wrote a book. It was the best book I'd ever written. Well, of course, it was the only book I'd ever written. I illustrated it with my nicest drawings and proudly sent it to the publisher. Oh, lucky people, I thought. The lucky people sent it back and said, "No, thank you." That's what we call a rejection. I decided I was never going to write again. Well, until the next day. That's when I felt better. I wrote a second book, and I sent it to a different publisher. The second publisher sent the book back and said, "No, thank you." I decided I would never write again. Until the next day, when I felt better. I wrote another book, and another, and another, and another. Practice must have helped because each story got a little better, and on my 7th try, no book came back. Just a "yes, please." That is called an acceptance. I was beside myself with joy and excitement. I was the first author that I had ever met. I drew the pictures for my first book. I did the pictures for this book even. But usually I work with an illustrator who has been at art school and who can draw bicycles. They can even draw refrigerators and pigs. My pig, my illustrator's pig. This talented person draws what I wish I could draw. Pig by the author, pig by the illustrator. Oh yeah, that illustrator is really good. So here I am, an author. And every time I sit down to write, perfect words line up perfectly in order and whoop, perfect book pops out of the computer. Whoop, bloop, bink. Not exactly. Sometimes writing stories is so hard for me. I can't come up with a single idea, and my stories get stuck in the middle. I can't think of the title. I have trouble making changes that my editor wants me to make. I lose my pencil, and I wonder why I'm doing this, and I get very, very, very frustrated. But that's sometimes. I love it best when my ideas are hatching so fast that I can barely write them down. I grab the nearest thing to write on and I get so excited that I forget what I was doing in the first place. The ideas that come to me in the middle of the night are hard to read the next day. And not all of the ideas are useful. I keep a whole box of fizzled thoughts and half-finished books. I call it my fizzle box. And whenever I need an idea, I go to the box and I find wonderful things. Just the name I needed, a funny word, or a wise lesson. Felicity Bricklehead, Wobbly Footser, never comb your feathers backwards. These are all wonderful things to keep track of. Usually, when I first think of a book is finished, it really isn't. I keep going over the story again and again and again, looking for ways to make it better, with little changes here and there. I do this until the book has to be printed. Then, it's too late to do anything else. I used to think that writing had to be done at special times while sitting at a desk, but slowly I discovered that you could write anytime and anywhere. I especially like to write when I'm bored, mostly because I'm not doing anything. That's a good time to do it. Of course, writing anytime and anywhere sometimes means writing on anything. Authors are lucky, for they get to meet hundreds of children through their letters, their school, and the library visits, and at autographing sessions. I didn't always like autographing books. The first time I autographed my table was next to the table of a very famous author. I was not a very famous author. Her line had no end. My line had no beginning. I'm glad I didn't join the circus, because even though writing is sometimes hard work, it is work that I love to do. I never dreamed that I'd become an author, so this is better than a dream come true. The